Hiya, Jennifer. You're from Beyond Expectations. I just wondered whether you could tell me a little bit about the business that you're in, the business that you
Okay,
run.
yeah, well, my business is predominantly an events company, and what we actually do is we decorate for various events. That is mostly weddings, but we do all sorts of events like birthday parties, christenings, anniversary parties, kids parties, all different things. And we used to have the shop as well. So there was like two strands to the business. There was the retail side of the business where we sold all the decorations and cake supplies and floristry supplies. And then the other strand, like I said, is we actually went on site and decorated for customers as well. Now the shop has closed, but we mainly do all the decorating for functions. So we do corporate events, floral structures, chair covers for parties, table centerpieces, and then for weddings we do all the floral arrangements and make lots of bouquets and so on for the brides. So in a nutshell, that's what we do, that's what the business is.
Okay. Oh, and when I first came into your shop, you had a wonderful shop in Park Street in Croydon. And when I first came into you and approached you about maybe having a little chat at first with Dana and Lucy,
Yep.
what made you say yes?
Um, Interesting. I said yes because I am a people's person and I do like working with people. And with Dana and Lucy, they sort of reminded me very much of myself, you know, two young, very ambitious women who wanted to, well, they had an interest and they wanted to create a business out of their interest or hobby, if you like. And because I really like working with people and with young people, I like sort of teaching, imparting some of my knowledge, and it just seemed right. I suppose given the fact that they both liked aspects of my own industry, it was just sort of automatic really. I've got information to give, I've got advice to give, and sort of, needing some guidance, it just seemed right. And so I was quite happy to get involved and to help them build their dreams basically, especially as I've been there from the very beginning, and so obviously I've got some advice that I could give over to them that would then help them on their way to building their dreams and starting their own business. So I think mainly that's probably why I said yes.
And did you have any expectations about the mentoring? And if you did it actually meet those expectations? Because it's been an interesting road.
Yeah, it has. I must admit, I didn't actually have any sort of preconceived expectations or ideas. I mean, it was just when you approached me, and of course when I met the two young ladies, I just took it on, but not really expecting a sort of approach or a process or anything like that. I didn't really have any kind of expectations at all, really. It was a matter of sort of just working along with them, sort of speaking to them, finding out their own ideas and what they wanted, what their interests were, what skill sets they had, and then sort of building on that as we went along. I think because I was sort of used to speaking to a lot of people, having the shop anyway, and a lot of customers would come in and ask me questions and ask me for guidance, ask me how you do this and how you do that. It was sort of second nature to me. So when I started to work with Lucy and Dana, no, I didn't really have any expectations. But as we went along, I began to realise a lot of things. And learn a lot of things from them. For a start, I was able to sort of realise that um, each of them had their different skills, they had their different ambitions, they had different ideas, but I needed to approach each of them in a different way. So I needed to use a different process in teaching or working with each of them to sort of develop them and sort of get where they wanted to be, or sort of work with them along sort of roads to teach them. So for me, I actually learned quite a lot in the process, um, and and then sort of found that actually it's quite an interesting process, and you know it develops as you go along. So yeah, I didn't start out with any sort of expectation at all, really.
With what you were doing, you were incredibly challenging at times, and I think that was really good. I mean, there was one time with Dana that you really challenged her about her care of the flowers and what she was doing and charging and things like that. And that was really quite fresh because most of the time they hadn't been challenged. And did you realize what an impact you actually made by challenging them on some of the things that you did? Did you realize what an impact that had made on them?
No, in all honesty, no, not at that point. I think I did challenge them, and because you know when they approached me with an idea that they wanted to build a business, and in as much as they were starting from their hobby or their interest, ultimately they still wanted to build a business. So for me, to work with them, I had to prepare them for the real world, the real business world. It is a challenge, and everything you do when you're actually building your business is real, and it can be very challenging. And coming from where they were coming from as well, sort of fresh to their industries, yes, they had their ideas, um, yes, they had some skill, but they didn't necessarily know, particularly, well, Dana in particular, didn't actually know what it, what the process would entail. So for me, I had to be real because what they were doing was real. I I wanted them to understand that, okay, you can choose. You can have a hobby and it can remain as a hobby, or you can build a business from your hobby and make some money from that. This is going to be your livelihood. So in that respect, if they're choosing to build a business, as they said that this was their interest, then they had to be prepared to face the challenge. I wasn't prepared to sort of mollycoddle Dana nor Lucy, nor sugarcoat, how challenging it would be. I had to put them in the real world and make them fully understand that, okay, this is what it's going to be like. You need to develop skills, you need to maintain good practices, you need to develop customer service skills, you need to know about budgeting, about pricing. There's just lots of things that they actually needed to take on board. They were really going to put this hobby into a successful business. And I think also it's also just my nature, really. If I'm teaching, then yes, I want to get the best out of people. So I will set the challenges. I will make them understand that this is real, you're in the real world, and this is what it's going to be. Sometimes it's going to be an uphill climb, but there's going to be the rewards at the end of it. And I could only encourage them challenge them so that they could develop the necessary skills to get where they want to be.
I think it certainly worked. I mean, if you look at the time when they did a testimony for you for a competition, and it comes out across, and that is that even though you challenged them, they'd actually responded not only to the challenge, but actually they enjoyed the fact that you challenged them, and they actually thought that what was good is that you valued them, that you had a belief in them, which was good. And Dana often talks to me about the fact that you told her at times that her designs were a bit old-fashioned and that she needed to get onto Pinterest. And she says a lot about, in fact, my designs now are a lot more modern and it's a lot more contemporary. And I think that is, but I think that is really good. And I think all businesses probably need to have that sort of peer interest with each other of being able to someone say, yes, but why don't you try that? Almost like a critical friend. And I think that's what you came across for me as a real critical friend of saying, yes, but you can do it this way. And if you did it this way, you'll earn more money. Charging more money for your flowers, it's the right thing to do. Making sure you have a good supplier for your flowers, it's the right thing to do. Which sort of brings me on to another question. You did one of the sort of bravest things I think I never expected anyone to do is when you gave over your shop for a while at Valentine's Day and Mother's Day to allow Dana to test trade. But you didn't only just do that, you opened her a credit line as regards the flowers as well, which I think was incredible. Not only was it incredibly brave, I think it sort of pushed her into being, well, this could never happen, to actually, I really want this to happen. What made you actually do that again? Because that's a bit of, you didn't have to do that. That was really something that came from you.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, again, coming back to the challenge, I mean, this had to be real for Dana, and she had to really understand every aspect of running a business. Now, if she had gone on a business course, she would have, you know, gained all the theory, but she wouldn't have had the practical side. And for her, she really needed that. And so when I opened up the shop to her, I just thought this, actually, the timing was perfect because she's interested in running a floral business. Valentine's Day and Mother's Day are the two biggest days in the floral industry calendar. And no other days where you can make more money than those two. So the timing was actually perfect. We then decided, okay, Valentine's Day is coming up. She now needs to be the customer interface. So ultimately, she needed to sell those bouquets that we were going to have her make. So then when I asked her about where she actually gets her supplies from, she was telling me about some retail she purchases her products from. And I, as a business person, that wouldn't do because it wouldn't make her price competitive. So this is why I introduced her to the wholesaler and had her set up a credit agreement. And I also introduced her to another one of my suppliers where she could get all the other non-live products from. So we set her up there and we helped her pick out all her products. We taught her how to quantify. So first she had to decide what bouquet she was going to make, then she needed to quantify that. That then enabled her to price those products. And then she had to work out what price she was going to sell them at. And then she could work out more or less what her profit. So we put her through all that training, and then we brought her in the shop and we had her actually then sell her products. That did a number of things for her because it meant that she could, one, get the experience of selling face-to-face, talking with her customer, and then that would help her develop her sales pitch and her selling skills, which, you know, in theory, she couldn't have done otherwise. So this was the reason behind actually bringing her in. We knew that the market was there for her because it was coming up to Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day shortly after Valentine's. So we knew that that would give her the opportunity to really go out there, make her products and sell them. So yeah, I mean, that was the reason behind it. To be honest, I think with Dana, I had already seen her interest. She was very, very ambitious. She had a lot of ideas, but in actual fact, bringing her into the shop and allowing her to go through that process, it just helped her to build on her ideas, test her own ability, and develop her customer skills and her sales skills as well. And she did well. She did very, very well out of it. So
I remember when I came back in, because I'd been away for Valentine's Day. The first thing she said to me is, I sold flowers to strange men. and this was from Dana, who is, you know, self-confessed, has autism, does not feel comfortable about going out and selling. And you could see from that moment of time is she still felt shy, but she didn't feel shy around her product. And from there, she has become someone who can get up and speak to people, does sell herself. It made a massive difference, that those 2 weeks. And also it showed that not only had she got a hobby, but she actually could work hard. It showed
she was very hard work.
Yeah. And I think that was the bit that impressed me, is that she knew there was things that were missing. And the bit where she took things on the chin, the things that you said to her, you need to care for your flowers, she actually then did something positive about it. She actually signed up on a course to actually have better flower, better flower care. You can tell I know nothing about flowers, but, you know, again, you know, it was that type of thing. Is I could see her coming back from being feeling small and insignificant, and you could see she was walking 10 feet tall. And I have a picture of her just at that time where she was someone else was launching a business, and she did all the flowers, and she looked $1 million, and it's because you could see the confidence in her. And that was absolutely that, and I'm perfectly sure that was because of those 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was so funny because at first we had her selling within the shop, and then I decided, no, actually, she's really got to go out there and approach the customer rather than wait for the customer to come into the shop to ask about flowers. So what we did was we put her outside to then approach people on the street as they were passing. And this actually would help her develop, one, her self-confidence, and secondly, it means that she's being proactive instead of reactive. So it means that she's pushing her sales. So we monitored from in the shop, because of course we had the big window. So she was safe. We watched her. And what we did with the money, we didn't allow her to sort of take money on the street. We allowed her to sell on the street, but then she would send the customer into the shop with their purchase, and they would pay in the shop. So in that respect, we kept her, you know, quite safe, so she didn't have to manage money on the street as well. But the approach was hers, and the good thing with Dana is that, you know, you will guide her and advise her, and she will listen. And that spoke volumes to me. She never refused to do anything that I suggested to her. She always took it on board, and that told me that she's very keen, she's very ambitious, and she's ready to learn. She was eager to learn, and that in itself was enough to was a good basis for her to really build her business. The other part she just needed to learn. You know, we have a saying, recruit for attitude, train for skill. Her attitude was right, and, you know, we knew that it was there with Dana. She just needed that helping hand, that guidance to put her on the right track and to just fill in the gaps that she probably wouldn't have learned on any business course. That's what we did with her, and she did the rest. All we did really was bring out her skills that she had, the underlying skills, and we just helped her develop them really.
Oh, if you don't know, you on both of Lucy with her blogging, and again her going from wanting to become a wedding planner to doing blogging and talking about weddings, which has been quite good fun with her. It's and still work in progress. And Donna, you've made such an impact, and it's an impact I couldn't have made. It's an impact I could help and I could move things along. But without you as a business owner to have it from a different perspective, help really, I think, seal that impact. I mean, we may have got there, but it would have got there. And certainly, I think when you're looking at learning disabilities and autism, really having a business owner really does help. That's my view. Is that
Yeah.
it's that bit where I thought because you believed in them and what you just said, I think that made it a tremendous deal of difference to them.
Well, you see, that's I think where people like myself who is in the line of business can help, because like you said, you could only teach so much, and it's just the same as if anybody is on a business course, for instance. There's so much that they can learn. So there's all the theory that they can learn, which is great because they can take that on board. But they do need somewhere then to put that theory into practice. So this is where businesses like mine will come in, really useful, because once that person has that opportunity to then put what they've learned into practice and further develop their skills, so be in the front line, then you're then combining, both of those learning curves together, and then that person is then able to obviously have more, learn more, and then that person is then will be able to then put everything into some sort of practice. Without the practical, it is very, very difficult. You to learn something and then be out on your own suddenly, totally on your own, from scratch, is very difficult. But if you've got a learning curve and you're able to have someone hold your hand and take you through the process, it is much easier, because that person can then gain confidence along the way. Particularly people like Dana and Lucy, because obviously they both have disabilities to deal with as well. So their learning could be different, and it's a matter of, when I was working with them, it's learning their different styles, learning different learning styles for each of them. So my approach had to adapt for each of them. The pace at which they learn was different. So it means for the young person who's just starting out in business, it means that they have an opportunity to gradually develop at a pace that is comfortable to them, and in so doing, they then can gain more confidence and probably be more successful at the end, rather than just dive in the deep end and maybe fail.
I couldn't agree more. I get quite a lot of time people are quite negative when they say, well, what's the point of approaching a business owner? What's in it for them? And it's a sort of question I'd like to ask you is, what was in it for you as such? Because I think there is a lot in it for you personally. And I think, I'd like people to actually understand that in a way.
Not everything's about money, and my gain wasn't monetary. It was very rewarding working with these two young women. I actually learned a lot from both. I actually realised some skills that I probably didn't realise before that I had. It gave me some real pleasure actually working with both of them, especially when I had to really understand how each of them learn things, um, and the different approach I had to take with each of them. I mean, it was really, really interesting. But I think the reward as well is knowing that those two women, especially Donna, because what Donna has done is more sort of tangible. I can see it. You know, it's from the experience and the advice that she got from me, which has put her where she is today, and she's really happy. She's really happy with where she's at the moment, and that's made me really happy. I mean, it just makes me feel that, wow, you know, that little bit of input that I have has helped somebody else develop what will go on to be a successful business.
Yeah, you've changed her life. No doubt about it. You've actually changed her life. No doubt about it. In a really positive sense, of she won't want to have things given to her. She knows she can go out and get it, and that's a huge difference with her. Probably don't need to ask this question, but yeah, I think in a way, I was going to ask you, do you think it's been worthwhile? But I think you probably have already answered that one.
It has been very worthwhile. It's good to know that she's in the garden centre now. She's there 4 days a week. She told me that she had a really good Valentine's Day. Last Christmas was very good for her. Valentine's Day was really good for her. Mother's Day was good, but obviously it was a little less due to the current situation that we're in now.
Which we're all in at the minute.
That we're all in. But it's just good to know that she has found her place in the market, and she really loves what she's doing. She's there 4 days a week, running her own business quite successfully, and she can only grow from there.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, when I think about when I was starting, I didn't have that helping hand. I had to learn everything that I had to learn from scratch. I made some mistakes along the way. I suppose a lot of us entrepreneurs have made some very, big financial mistakes. But it's rewarding when you know that you've managed to help somebody build their business. And yes, they'll probably make some mistakes along the way, but you've sort of minimized some of those mistakes. And you've taught them a lot from the outset. And they have that as sort of a foundation on which to build and grow from that. And for me, that's the rewards of taking on both Dana and Lucy. And I just hope, that they continue. And in time, I mean, they could turn to somebody else and then impart some knowledge as they grow, as they've grown. They will impart some of their knowledge onto somebody, years to come who's just starting out.
It might be of interest to you in the project that I've been in is they've already imparted knowledge to people from Chile to Japan, Malaysia and Greece. So Dana has already been a star already in doing this, and people are being amazed of the things that she has done, and she's managed also to make sure that everyone has her Instagram page and such like. A counterpart of this, I'm hoping to do an interview with Dana, much the same way. So hopefully we can do something similar. Do you have anything else to add? Because I think we've got less than 5 minutes left. So do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think, I really encourage other businesses to partake in such a process. I know it is time consuming, and I think with all the business owners, that is one of the things that we're all very conscious of. We have very little time. But the little time that you do spend just, working with somebody else, developing somebody else, it could be so big. Like you say, it could be a life changer. So even if it's an hour a week, 2 hours a week, it's well worth it. And if you can do that, then, you could consider your job well done.
Oh, Jennifer, I really can't thank you for all the help that Beyond Expectations. I thought your business was fantastic before, but after that, I've always sort of make sure that everyone who's interested in about weddings to make sure that they visit your site. And I'm sure you won't mind me if I make sure that people will be able to see your Facebook page and your website underneath this, if I can get the subtitles correct for it.
Yeah, and Instagram. We're on Instagram as well.
Right.
So,
I'll
that would
make
be
sure.
brilliant.
But seriously, thank you so much from all at Status Employment. And you made such a huge difference